It's a sunny Sunday morning at Silverstone. The home of British motor racing plays host to the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup this weekend. Qualifying for today's 3-hour race is just getting underway because we've got a green flag, the track is live, and with over 50 GT cars here this weekend, we are set, ready to get the action underway. David Addison and John Watson with you for what promises to be not only a fascinating race, but as ever, a very busy qualifying session. It'll be the slightly smaller number of cars for Q1 because of the double driver entries, but we're good to go as everybody now pours out onto the circuit. And there's barely a cloud in the sky. It is pretty nice and warm this morning. It's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And this, John, is a busy day for the teams. They've got this qualifying session early, and then they've got a bit of downtime to sort themselves out, ready for a busy race this afternoon.
Yes, and going into qualifying as we are right now, I could not tell you, because I haven't got a clue who to expect, who we might believe could be in the front row of the grid, who could be on pole position. Because with the two free practice sessions that we had on Saturday, the second one, of course, was slightly truncated towards the end when the Porsche had an incident just at this part of the racetrack coming out of club. I don't think anybody in the pit lane knows precisely what their ultimate performance is or where they think they may be within this grid. So in the next, 25, 30 minutes, we're going to get something that nobody in the pit lane can predict. And certainly I don't have a clue about, but other than 5.9 kilometres, 18 turns, the famous Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in its latest incarnation, which has now been, for 5 or so years.
Well, so we have a green flag. The cars are all out on circuits, those that are eligible for Q1. As I say, if you're a double driver rather than a 3-driver entry, you don't go out in this element of the session. But it's going to be interesting to see who sets the target time. We did get some sub-2-minute laps yesterday, one of which was done, of course, by the hard-charging Giancarlo Fisichella. And they're thinking of Ferrari's number 11 out on track early doors, Michael Bronieschi, Alessandro Bonaccini and Andrea Rizzoli. And it is going to be Bronieschi behind the wheel of a very quick Pro-Am Ferrari. We've got the three classes, the overall, the Pro-Am and the Am Cup. And number 11 is one of the Kessel Racing run cars. It's one of the new 488 GT3 Ferraris. So everybody comes pouring out on track and expect, as normal, you might get some good laps out of Q1 and Q2, but the bulk of the grid is going to be formed in Q3 when the cars are lighter, and that's when you've got your gun driver behind the wheel.
Yes, it'll be very much the track getting slightly better in terms of 2 sessions prior, the track being slightly overnight, the grip factor, which is very, very good, very high apparently from all the competitors on Saturday. So they'll be looking for that kind of feedback, that kind of feel that they get through their body, through their hands and their feet to give them that confidence. But it was actually some strange parts of the track we saw yesterday, particularly coming out of Abbey, the first corner that you meet if you're starting in the Grand Prix part of the circuit. Here we are onto the Wellington Straight. But it's just simply going to be, can you get a whole lap where you don't meet traffic? They're the 11 Ferrari, fastest middle sector, but that's not going to last terribly long, one would assume, because we've got another just under 11 minutes of the session remaining and then 2 more sessions to come.
And of course, it's the first flying lap, so times are going to come down as the session wears on, but this is an interesting benchmark because Bronieschi, who is a very quick driver within Pro-Am, sets a target time at 2 minutes 3.943, ahead in fact of number 12, which is Oliver Grutz in the Butz-Gignon BMW. That was a car that was transgressing for track limits yesterday. We've got 1 or 2 with transponder issues already that the timekeepers and the race officials are clamping down upon. There is a car that's going to be worth watching this weekend, 29 Lamborghini. It's the Conrad run car, Jules Gounod, who had a win in the German Championship a couple of weeks ago at the Sachsenring. He is joined by Christopher Zirkling, who was out in the Lamborghini race yesterday, former Porsche racer, but also Dan Camish, who is the reigning Carrera Cup GB champion. He's a former UK Formula Ford champion, very, very highly rated Dan Camish. He excels in the UK. We've yet to see how well he can deliver in other championships as the car runs a little bit wide. He had a spell in the German Carrera Cup last year with the Conrad team. It wasn't a massive hit, although the car wasn't the most competitive in fairness to him, but it's going to be really interesting to see how he shapes up this weekend against opposition with perhaps in many cases more experience of a GT car. Well, the answer is he's doing a good job because Dan Camish is fastest thus far, 2 minutes 2.701.
But we did see a much better time from a Ferrari driver, Giancarlo Fisichella, in the first of the 2 free practice sessions on Saturday morning, and that time wasn't bettered in the second of the 2 sessions. Giancarlo Fisichella, 53 Ferrari, 488, 1 minute 59.767. The best in the second qualifying or pre-qualifying session was by Mirko Bortolotti, Grassa Racing Team, at 159.873. So we're looking at certainly a sub 2 minute, and maybe something into the very high 1 minute 58 in a qualifying context might be possible. It's the 333 Ferrari, Norbert Siedler and Marco Siegfried, the 2 regulars in that car who currently are now quickest on a 2:01.5, but still a 2-second gap between where they were yesterday. The Conrad, no, not coming
That's
down.
The Barwell car,
yes, the Barwell car. Here's Phil Keane was looking to dive down the inside, wasn't quite far enough up alongside to take the opportunity, and backed out of it, so he's back going into the pits.
So in it comes, and Phil Keane replacing Marco Attard at Barwell for the weekend. And Phil, we know, goes very, very quickly in not just modern GT cars, but historic ones as well. Now, number 8, Maxime Soulet is at the wheel of the Bentley. Maxime Soulet having had a win in the qualifying race at Misano in the Sprint Cup, and of course being third a week ago at Brands Hatch in the Sprint Cup in the main race there. And the Bentley was quick at Monza as well, because it was third in the opening Endurance Cup race, number 8, which traditionally has had all the bad luck, but at the moment 8's outpacing 7 in the championship this year, and second fastest it has gone, John.
Yes, just gone second quickest. Wait and see what the BMW coming around midway around the circuit. So still the Ferrari 333 of Marco Siegfried and Norbert Siedler, who's yet to be in the car. And that time, 2:01, will set on his first flying lap, which will be on a fresh, if not new set of tyres. We keep referring to the performance that you've got with the most fresh sets of tyres. Teams probably will try to keep back as many fresh sets, new sets, as they can for this afternoon's 3-hour race, where really that's where you wanted. And if you think back just to 1 week ago when Maxime Soulet had a brand new set of Pirelli rubber for his stint at Brands Hatch, and it paid massive dividends, and that gave that team a really, really strong result as a consequence.
The timing screens had another think about who was in the 29 Conrad Lamborghini. Jules Gounon is the answer, and a spinning 66 Ferrari. That is up at Luffield, and it should be Alexander Matschel behind the wheel for Q1. That's the car that you've got Daniel Kleilwitz in. It was actually Jules Gounon's co-driver in the German Championship.
Maxime Martin in the BMW have just gone quickest, 2:00.702. So Ferrari's going to have to go the very long way. Truncated is always difficult getting it back on track. At Luffield, always a busy part of the circuit.
So Matschel gets away. Maxime Martin then in the Rover Racing, number 99 BMW, goes top, 2 minutes 0.702 ahead of Dominic Baumann. And then not Pereira, third fastest. Third fastest now is Ezequiel Perez Compact in the Ferrari. And then it's Marco Siegfried, Maxime Soulet. And to round out the top 6 at the moment, it is Alex Fontana in McLaren number 59. How's 58 doing? Comme Ledegar is 8th fastest. Number 19, a very, very quick car yesterday, making its way up towards the exit of Club Corner. This is the Michele Beretta, Luca Stoltz, Andrea Piccini car. Michele Beretta is the man behind the wheel of it at the moment. Dominic Baumann's on a big mission in 84 Mercedes, because he's done the absolute best in the first sector. It's not going to be long before we get below 2 minutes, is it, on the lap times?
It's almost impossible to follow any group of cars, because one sector, one car's gone purple, another sector, somebody else has gone purple.
Yeah.
But looking at the Lamborghini, would expect to see an improvement. Currently down in 11th place, and looking to personal best in that first sector. Coming up to the end of the second sector, again a personal best. So a third personal best should see this number 19 Lamborghini comfortably into the top 10 at this particular point, with 5 minutes of the session remaining.
Yes, these short, sharp elements of qualifying on a long lap, over 5 kilometres long, mean that they don't last very, very long. You don't get that many laps in by the time you've taken out an out lap and a start-up lap, so you've got to be on your toes. Up to the timing line comes number 19 then. Michele Beretta started the lap 11th, 2 improvements in the sectors. He does improve, but from 11th to 9th, so not a huge improvement, 2 minutes 2.3.
Expect to see improvements from the quickest 2 cars on their current lap. Well, 2 minutes 0.00524, the best lap, and that's Maxime Martin Didn't quite get the final sector. That was maybe again the traffic waiting for Dominic Barman now in second place. Personal best in first and second sectors in the Mercedes. So waiting for him to come across the start-finish line. And we will see whether the Mercedes can get ahead of the BMW, as the Lamborghini has been off track.
Yeah, Baumann improved, but not by enough. He brought the time down to a 2-minute 0.638. We were riding with him as he crossed the line, and he's a tenth of a second back. Is this the Lamborghini? It is.
Oh, dear me.
It's well camouflaged, isn't it?
No, I mean, that's not... And all that lovely grass that's been mown to an inch in perfection. So a big moment for the 19 Lamborghini as we look into their garage, and ooh, it's still a bit nippy in the garage at this time of day. Sun not really yet around to heat up those. Looking at the Nissan to see where they are. That's the 23 it is. That's the Buncombe Takabashi-san car.
There's also a car off at Brooklands, look. You just caught a glimpse of it, so there's a yellow flag out at Brooklands now.
And Lucas Ordonez just looked like he momentarily checked up there. It was difficult to see. So waiting to see where the Nissan still doesn't make its way into the top 20 on our first timing and scoring page. Goes 21st.
Okay. But drivers are going to have to measure good lap times now against the need to respect a waved yellow flag down at Brooklands, because we've got this car parked on the outside of the road. You just got a glimpse of it in the background as the Nissan had gone through Brooklands on that previous lap. There it is, and it's the 44 Aston Martin, the motor-based car. Devon Modell doing the opening part of qualifying, and somebody else in big strife there. 51 Ferrari off into the barriers with some speed. That's Peter Mann, the American, and a red flag is being shown.
Yes, immediately the car. And again, is that up at Beckett's? It is.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And a long way off.
I mean, how did you ever get there? We saw, in fact, Michael Meadows yesterday do a stunning first sector time. In fact, the Aston Martin involved wheel off a car. So there looked like there were two cars involved in that incident up at Beckett's, of which one is lost. One of it looks like a left front. So maybe we will get a glimpse. This is going to be the session finish that will not restart. Well, I say that, the clock has stopped.
Yeah.
But in reality, the Aston and the Ferrari somehow came together.
No, the Aston's at Brooklands. Different.
Is that the
different
something
incident,
came together with the Ferrari, and a big heavy hit. With the right side of the car, look at the wheel. It's just, well, I imagine the suspension damage.
I think that was a Nissan he got involved with, wasn't it?
It could be, just caught a glimpse of it very briefly. So, two cars into one into Beckett's do not go. So the clock has stopped.
Yeah.
So once the circuit goes green again, which may take, there is a Nissan indeed smoking heavily in at the rear, and it looks like initially there was an Aston Martin we saw off, and I thought that, but it is the Nissan, the right front indeed. Yeah. So
here it is again.
Let's have a look at it again and see.
That's after the contact, isn't it? So the Nissan has to take to the grass, but the contact's already made.
Yes, and that's the Nissan pretty much going to be struggling to get that car ready for the second qualifying session, because if there's any suspension damage, there's certainly a small amount of bodywork damage. There's Sean Walkinshaw in the garage looking at the...
It's more than a puncture, isn't it? Suspension as well.
I would assume, well, you can see the car, the front wheel's not even rotating. So there will be a little bit of bodywork damage, which will have to be attended to, and whatever else is behind the front apron on the Nissan. That's the 23 car that Alex Buncombe would be taking over for the final qualifying session. It's really, look at that. Never pretty when you see it. At the bottom of the car, the side skirts which are dragging along the ground, they're going to get worn away. The skid block, that will be probably under that part of the chassis as well. So the car is being driven back slowly, but nevertheless, there'll be some Alex Buncombe now not looking quite so chirpy as he did about 15 minutes ago when I saw him wandering off to the BRDC suite for a coffee.
And Peter Mann still in the car, and of course that car isn't yet returned to the team, so they're also, the AF Corsa team, staring at big problems here. Rover Racing, Alexander Sims in the background there with the spectacles on, having a look at the monitors. The Nissan is limping back. Now the session is due to get underway in 3 more minutes' time, but 2 minutes and 54 seconds on the clock. For many, if you're not at the front of the queue, you're not going to finish an outlap in time, so it's a rather irrelevant restart, really. And there's still the Aston Martin to retrieve from down at Brooklands. It's a long way off the road, but that's also in strife. So there's the contact with the Nissan and the Ferrari. So Peter Mann launched over the gravel, bang, rear damage as he smacks into the barrier there. And that's a big, heavy hit, isn't it?
It is a heavy hit, and again, you're sitting in the car, you're just a passenger waiting for it to either come to come to a halt under its own steam or hit something, and the hit something came first. So Nissan back in, the right front being removed. And it's difficult to get that wheel tower off now.
So potentially the car's going to miss Q2. Might even miss Q3, depending on the damage. The same is true very much of Peter Mann's Ferrari. We lost a Porsche yesterday. And Devon Modell's Aston, the three-wheeler, that's down at Brooklands. That's why that car had parked.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. I saw a wheel in isolation, didn't see the Aston. And so that's going to have to be lifted by the truck, whether they can get the tyre back on, or whether the wheel and tyre back on, or whether the wheel nut has vanished somewhere into the scenery. Anyway, the car's going to have to be hoisted up onto the back of the truck to be returned to the pits.
I'd also be rather
this session is not going to restart at
party can't move the car.
Well, it'll be unlikely to start at 9:18. They're still working at the Ferrari to get the straps attached to the rear of the car to get it hoisted up onto the flatbed to get it back to the pits.
How many laps had the Aston Martin done? Devon Modell had done 4. So it wasn't that he'd come straight out of the pit. So the concern there would be, why are wheels suddenly parts company?
Indeed. So getting preparation.
Pit lane in a moment, because Lucas Ordóñez has brought 23 Nissan into the pit lane. We'll find out what happened there. Charlie Butler-Henderson joins us this weekend. Charlie is with Lucas.
So, Lucas, the car has come back, not all in the correct form. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, sure. It was frustrating because I found a good balance, good pace. Then I got a yellow flag in the third sector in a good lap, and passing 2 cars. And then in the next lap, I got a Ferrari, had a much better run in the exit of Copse. And then I showed him I was on the inside, and then I saw him coming to the right side. So I thought, okay, I have a clean run into Maggots. And then suddenly he came straight, like in a really aggressive way, and then I clip him, and he went off on the left. And then I don't know what's the damage. Hopefully we can sort it for Q2 or Q3. And it's a real shame. But because I thought it was no risk at all in that move, but suddenly he came into me, and it ruined our qualifying at the moment. So hopefully we can sort it for the qualifying, because it's 60 cars in this race. It's really important to get into the top 10 for sure.
Okay, well, I'm sure the guys are going to fix it. It doesn't look too bad from my point of view, but you're okay. The car doesn't look too bad, and the session is going to get going. Good luck for later.
Thank you.
And Lucas Ordóñez, I reckon, deserves bonus points for talking about cops and maggots rather than turn 1 and turn 2 like lots of drivers do. I know that the Nissan PlayStation GT Academy did lots of its development and training at Silverstone, so he knows his way around the place and he knows all the corner names, but bonus points awarded, I reckon, for that, rather than just turn 1, turn 2, etc., which is how most young drivers refer to circuits. Of course, some circuits don't even have corner names, but Silverstone is a good old traditional place.
Yeah. Interesting to see what the point of view from Peter Mann, the Ferrari driver, might be regarding the incident, because it's a very quick part of the circuit. The entry into Beckett's in any race car is extremely high. And if, as Ordóñez said, he thought that there was no issue about who would have right of way, as it were, into the corner. On the other hand, the AM Ferrari would be, it has to turn at some point. It's either that or it's got to go straight on. And sometimes also you get blind spots in mirrors, in cars. Happens all the time when you're coming onto a motorway. You look in your mirror and you can't see anything coming, and there's a car in your blind spot. There's the Ferrari now being brought back to the back of the paddock, and that car will be returned to the pits and assess damage, but heavy damage certainly on the right rear wheel. And one would assume that then there's further damage potential to the suspension drivetrain of that Ferrari.
So the rest of the field waits in the pit lane. Just to recap, we had Maxime Martin the fastest, 2 minutes 0.524 from Dominic Baumann, 2 minutes 0.638, and then Ezequiel Perez Compact third, 2 minutes 1.184, Marco Seefried fourth, fifth Maxime Soule, and sixth was Alex Fontana. Now, overseeing the Nissans is Bob Neville. Q1's not being restarted, by the way. Let's hear from Bob with Charlie right now.
So, Nissan team boss Bob Neville. Bob, tell us what's exactly happened, and what's the extent of the damage?
Well, I don't know what exactly happened out there, but obviously there was some contact, and with this car, there's some damage to the right front. But we're just letting them get on with it at the moment.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll be okay, I think.
So from sort of the pit radio communication that you've got going from driver to team and all the mechanics, it doesn't look too bad. So I'm pretty confident from my point of view. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I hope you're right. I think so. Lucas said he had the contact. He thought the guy was letting him through. The Ferrari was letting him through, and then he limped back. And as you can see, they're into it now. And I'm sure we won't get out at the start of the session, but hopefully we'll get out. Quali 2 as well, and Quali 3 for Alex.
Good. Well, best of luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Charlie.
Well done, Charlie Butler-Henderson, getting hold of Bob Neville. But to be truthful, I haven't got a clue. I don't think Bob gave us an answer or an indication or anything about what the problem is or how long it might take to fix. And it's just a 2-minute answer, but where's the story? What is the story? Anyway,
it was an answer Sir Humphrey Appleby would have been proud of from Yes Minister
yes,
days.
indeed, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Q1 is not going to be resumed because there was no point. There was barely a lap time in it for only a handful of cars anyway. So we will go straight on to Q2 when the circuit is clear. So for as long as it takes to retrieve a Ferrari, well, we've seen that done, but the Aston there still being retrieved. All of this is helping the teams in the pit lane repair damage because the circuit is not live, therefore they're not losing any track time. But it won't be long before we get underway. But a rather weird start to the day. Cars losing wheels and a fair old impact as well. Whereas yesterday, largely, apart from an incident at the end, was not too bad. But anyway.
Yes, I mean, there were a number of incidents where people lost, particularly coming through Abbey for some strange reason. A number of cars went off and they spun to the infield. In fact, someone got into the gravel trap on the inside of Abbey. But there was no major contact. That was a fairly heavy contact, which will have damaged the Ferrari sufficiently for it not to take part in the rest of qualifying, in my opinion. The Nissan, well, you know, which way's the wind blowing today? How high are the clouds in the sky? Oh, yes, the sun's coming out. Oh, I can't tell you about the car. So there the Aston Martin is being hoisted onto the flatbed. Once it's on the truck, then it'll be removed very quickly.
Yeah.
So maybe in another well, what time is it now? It's coming up to wherever the timing and scoring is. It'll be another 3 to 4 minutes before the track will go green, in my view. But hopefully there's no debris on the track. But what is curious, as you pointed out, David, is why did a wheel come off?
Yeah.
If a wheel's going to come off a car, it'll come off more or less the minute it leaves the pit lane. It's rare for a wheel to come off in the course of a run, with the exception, if you go all the way back to the wonderful days of Group C racing, when Porsche's 956 used to shed its wheels. And it didn't do it after a pit stop, it might do it after 20 laps.
Wasn't it often when you had a safety car period and everything had cooled down and the nuts sort of unthreaded, and it happened a long way into stints? But you're right, it was a real feature of the cars at that period, wasn't it?
I'm being anecdotal about it. In those days, I was still a Grand Prix driver.
Of course.
So
yes.
I was just reading about it and picking it up from one of my neighbours on the day, who used to tell us about going through all these corners. Yeah, mate, flat out, mate, there, flat out here. Go on, mate, it was great, mate. No names, no pack drill.
But you can offer a thought as to who it might be and you win a prize. I don't know what the prize is yet, I'll think about it. Right, curiously, the Nissan and the Aston are being investigated rather than the Nissan and the Ferrari, but never mind. I'm sure the evidence will tell the story to everybody concerned. Oh, we've gone green. Q2 is underway. Right, so the cars are lighter, but there are more of them now because the two-driver entries now can join in. So the circuit's going to get busier and busier and busier. We have 15 minutes. Any takers? It takes a long time for the pit lane to empty. You wait till that man, Giancarlo Fisichella, gets aboard his flying Ferrari. He could be a candidate for pole position.
I mean, there are a number of the Pro-Am cars that were right at the very front of the timing and scoring through the 2 free practice sessions, and one of them is Giancarlo Fisichella saying, hey, I like to be in the Rome. I could be watching the Rome Open tennis today, this afternoon, and I would be probably colder than I am at Silverstone because Rome has also been nippy. And Silverstone, we're looking to see a temperature maybe in the middle to high 60s in Fahrenheit terms. I haven't yet converted to the Celsius degrees, but anyway, or Celsius. You don't say degrees when you say Celsius. It's always 16 Celsius, not 16 Celsius degrees. I don't know why, but that's the way it's 16 Celsius, whereas it's 16 Fahrenheit degrees.
Now let's just steer away from temperatures for a moment and head back to Charlie. He's got Maxime Martin with him.
So, Maxime Martin, pole, fastest at the moment in the BMW. Do you think you can keep it up there?
We will try, for sure. Yeah, I did quite a good lap. I'm quite happy with the lap, but yeah, we'll have to see. I think everything will be quicker and quicker now. But yeah, it's good to start with the P1 in Q1.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the overall results which count. So yeah, now my teammates have to push.
Good. The circuit very different to yesterday. Is it like completely different because of the temperature or not?
No, it's not so much different. I think it's more or less the same. But yeah, we worked yesterday quite hard on finding a good setup for the track here, which we never came with the M6. So we had to work quite hard, and yeah, we're getting in the right direction, and yeah, I hope it can pay off.
Cool. Well, good luck, and well done so far.
Thank you very much.
So Maxime Martin then, who for many years was a real stalwart Blancpain driver, but these days he's part of BMW's assault on the DTM. We saw him, of course, in the Spa 24 Hours last year, which was the farewell, really, as it turned out, a successful one for Mark VDS Racing, but let's hope he comes back to do Spa this year. He's on the BMW books, that's why he gets parachuted into the Rover Racing car for this weekend. Now, number 16 was a quick car yesterday, and it has got your own Blancpain at the wheel of it now, and your own CV is a very large and impressive one. And he's a very quick driver, and so this could be another candidate for the top time in this element of qualifying, if not overall.
Well, Jerome Blancpain, we know, races every weekend, he races every kind of racing car. Today, other than maybe open wheel race cars, he's in a turnkey. I mean, the Lamborghini Huracan is an outstanding race car, and the strength of the Lamborghini Trofeo series even more so. But Jerome Blancpain, to me, is the equivalent. You talk about a turnkey race car. He's a turnkey driver.
Yes.
You know, stick him in your car, give him some laps, and he will deliver, and normally do it very, very well for you.
Yeah, you just flick a switch and off he goes and delivers. We've got a yellow flag somewhere in the middle sector. Somebody's had a moment already. The middle sector is a long one. This is the start of it now, because you break the first timing beam coming onto Hanger Straight, and then down through Stoke Corner. 22 Nissan at the head of that little group, 75 Audi turning its way through, which is now Philippe Salaquada. That's the ISR car, one of the two ISR run Audis. And so a 2-minute 0.5 is the time to beat as you look at another of these imposing new BMWs. Number 12, one of the cars that runs within Pro-Am, and it's now Karim Auger at the wheel of it, Oliver Gruetz having done Q1. BMW now working its way. Oh, that's the reason. There's a car in the gravel and a red flag straight away. So somebody has plunged off the road at Club Corner.
I mean, cool tyres, getting caught out, maybe riding the curb, coming out of Club Corner, and then a sharp turn into the gravel to the left. And it stayed off the barrier. So the car in the gravel, red flag again. What a sort of messy two qualifying seconds.
Yeah, I think that's 42 possibly. One of the Sport Garage Ferraris that's beached, waiting for a marshal to move. We can see a number, but I've got a feeling that could be 42.
42,
yes,
yeah,
there you go. Spot on. So that means it's Neil Stevenart at the wheel of it, and off he has gone. But that's a funny place to find a car these days.
I don't know why I mean, other than you had maybe contact with another car on the exit of Club Corner, but ordinarily, if you're going to lose a car, it will spin in towards, as we saw with the Porsche yesterday, towards the Formula One pit start-finish line. There it is, very solid wall, which did a lot of damage to the Porsche yesterday. All I can assume is that it came out of club, got it a bit out of shape, and it overcorrected and ends up in the gravel. Whether it was a self-assist or whether it was external assist, I don't know.
Well, tell you what, if it carries on like this, with this element with 10 minutes and 50 seconds to go plus Q3, we could end up having a grid the most jumbled we know of. Number 23, the Nissan drivers have got to go to the stewards at the end of Q3, so there's a case to answer, they feel, about number 23 Nissan. That's 22, the sister car coming in, but right now there's absolutely no pattern to the grid at all.
I mean, it's just so far a disrupted first qualifying session. Now the second session's barely got anybody who's had a timed lap. I mean, I think the first lap probably was, well, in fact, it was Lawrence Van Thor. No, Frederick Favish in the number 1 Audi.
Yeah, I mean, nobody had
done a
flying
3 minute
lap.
50, so they didn't even get a lap. It was just an out lap and a back in lap. So.
Yeah, everybody had started a flying lap, just about, but nobody had done a lap at all.
At this end, for the 23 car, although they've been requested to come to see the stewards at the end of the Q3, that gives them a bit more time to try and get that car repaired to get it back out at some point in Q2.
Absolutely. So they're actually benefiting a little bit by all of this. That's Karim Ogier, who's brought his BMW back in. Remember, he had a Z4 last year that had that rather large accident at Spa. Neil Stevenart's car is out of the gravel, so in theory he can drive that back now, peppering the road with gravel as he does.
Yes, I mean, he'd be advised to stay off on that bit of tarmac, which is not the racetrack, and shred as much, or shed as much of the gravel as he possibly can, rather than trying to get back onto the circuit. And let's have a look and see. Oh, he's going to go and do the, that's right, stay as long as you can. Put the brakes on now, and anything that's in the front of the car will also come out. At least he's done, I think, the sensible thing for everybody else, and he moves over to the right-hand side of the track. Excellent. So that's actually a very, very good ethic. Yeah. Indeed, and that I have to say, impressive and intelligent, returning to the pits.
You can hear the gravel coming out from underneath. Oh, rattle, rattle, there it is.
Yeah, it is. It's got a lot of it.
Yeah.
And at some point you've got to get back onto the circuit. But he's doing the right thing, staying way, way offline. Yeah. Unfortunately, a little bit will have been bouncing across the racing line, the exit of Abbey Corner. So this looks to have been just a self-induced incident.
Can't see any damage.
No, it's probably just a load of gravel rash more than anything else.
So as soon as the car is in the pit lane, we're going to go green, because the restart will be in less than a minute's time. So everybody in the pit road is on their toes, getting ready to go. And as soon as the Sport Garage Ferrari is in, then we'll be back in business. Bob Neville is being summoned to see the stewards at the end of Q3 about his Nissan. We heard from Bob a little while ago. You're looking at the Garage 59 McLaren that scored victory at Monza in the opening Endurance Cup race. Remember, it's 5 endurance races of different lengths, because you've got the 24-hour and the 6-hour race to factor in, but then you've also got the 2 races each weekend for the Sprint Cup that make up the other 5 rounds of the overall Blancpain GT series.
Now, with 10 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, I do hope that everybody retains some degree of control behind the wheel, because inevitably people will feel a little bit of pressure. They haven't had the chance to do what they wanted to do in this second qualifying session, and the temptation is to try and push a little bit, maybe above and beyond where they need to be, to get to a position where they've got a car that they think is capable of doing in Q3 respectable qualifying time. That sounds a load of gobbledygook, but basically it's always a danger when you see qualifying sessions being shortened because of a car off track. Now everybody's got to go back out and do what they did in the first almost 4 minutes or so of the session, and if they do, it takes, well, they've lost a third of the session in effect.
And they're going to lose effectively another 2 minutes plus, because you've got to do an out lap, so you won't be looking at people on a flying lap until there are 8 minutes to go.
And you've got to get your tyres back up to temperature, get the brakes back up to temperature. I mean, it's not like you're going to have to do 20 laps to get your eye in, but for some drivers above others, and for the fully, the platinum and gold drivers, they'll get in and be on it straight away. But for those that are silver or bronze, they might want that little lap or 2 just to get a sense. Oil flag being shown, that's meaning to say that there is gravel on the track. The drivers won't know it's gravel, but they'll know there will be something that doesn't feel quite right. And until really the session ends, it looks like the Nissan might be able to get out. So good job by RJN team to get that car prepared and ready to run. So it looks like it was only the tyre being flattened, possibly a little bit of bodywork damage, which will be something they can attend to more carefully, let's say, once this qualifying session is over.
Now they might just do an installation lap, see how it feels, and then come back in and tweak if needed, or they might stay out and go for a banker lap, and at least get 1 out of this element.
I think that there's not a lot of time, so if you want to go out and come back in again, then go back out again, and you're going to really say the session's over. So the 2 M6 BMWs on the boots, Gunion car and black, the other, the Roo Racing. Very impressive these BMWs have been. It is a much, much larger car than the Z4M that we have seen from previous seasons. from BMW, but it really looks to be an outstanding race car. And the way the car rides, I think, is what's been impressing me. It looks like it's like a groundhog almost, the way it just hugs the racetrack.
Its very appearance sort of reminds you of a DTM car, but cast your mind back quite a few years. There was a M6 that ran in GT3, the Alpina, rather than a factory car. Anyway, onto the Hangar Straight it has come. And lots of traffic to factor into all of this now. So remember, the best time we've had thus far out of Q1, Maxime Martin, 2 minutes 0.5. No lap time as yet out of Q2. They're on their first proper flying lap now. And look, you know, you've got virtually half the session gone.
But it's the BMW that's fastest first sector in this session so far, and that's the car that was fastest overall.
Yeah. So Maxime Martin has handed it over now to Philippe Eng.
Yeah, so he's not wasting any time, but the BMW is struggling to find a way past, coming into Abbey. The Audi not prepared to concede ground. The BMW the quicker of the two at this minute, but the Audi's just now moved over and let the BMW get through. So Philippe Eng not taking any prisoners as Maxime Martin keeps an eye to see what his teammates doing, and Philippe Eng right on the edge, fastest second sector overall as well. So down Wellington Straight and into the braking zone of Brooklands.
He's had to dispense with the traffic on this lap. Philippe Eng, who was a winner here last year in the Porsche Super Cup, turning his way through Luffield now, double Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, has excelled in Porsches for the last couple of seasons. He had a spell prior to that in the German GT Championship, now coming into Blancpain this year. So he knows his way around many of the circuits. He knows the discipline of GT racing, and he goes over the timing line and goes quickest, 2 minutes 0.278. So that means he's gone quicker than Maxime Martin, who smiles ruefully.
And that's impressive because that was also having to handle traffic. The Audi coming down into Village, and then earlier in the lap coming down the main straight. So that's a very impressive run from Philippe Eng. First flying lap, you know, he hasn't driven this car since yesterday, jumps into it, on it straight away. But we're already seeing now Frederic Verviers in the number one Audi. He's got fastest first sector. Michael Meadows, also very impressive. So Audi's 1 and 2 are going to be very soon up at the head of the list. There's number 2 Audi, Michael Meadows behind the wheel.
Yeah, and another one that's been quick is Peter Cox in number 4. As you've got
Jaguar
Stefano
second
Ortelli up to second fastest in the Emil Frey Jaguar, 2 minutes 1.409. Not anymore. Michael Meadows goes second, 2 minutes 0.818. So you've got Eng, Meadows, Ortelli. That's the top 3. There is Michael Meadows turning his way through. And I'm afraid the Jaguar is now dropping as everybody else goes quicker. It's down to 5th because you just had Tom Onslow Cole up to 4th. Hooray for the Brit. And also Sergio Jimenez up to 3rd in the Audi. So Audi's looking pretty good at the moment. As there, having to dart past the traffic, is 58. And the McLaren safely through the traffic. And looking good as well. Personal best and an absolute best from 58 on this lap.
Well, I spoke to Andrew Kirkcaldy this morning, who effectively his company is responsible for the production of the racing versions of the McLaren family as it is these days. This is the 650S model. And he looked quietly confident because they'd done all their homework and preparation. So is this going to be the quickest lap so far?
Shane van Gisbergen set to 1:59.733. Best time briefly because Frederic Verviers does a 59.732. He's gone quicker there, number 1 Audi, by 1,000th of a second. By 1,000th, that's all. Briefly, the Giz had gone quickest, 1:59.733, but 1,000th of a second quicker, Verviers, and then Philippe Eng goes quicker still on a 59.5, so a 1/5 of a second faster now.
Yes, and those 4 times are the quickest, the fastest 3 times are the quickest 3 laps we've had over the whole weekend. So we're getting into the middle 1 minute 59s. Robin Freins in the Audi pits, looking he's going to be in that car, or a car, very shortly. So with 4 minutes to go, BMW, Audi and McLaren have shown their hand, and all capable of running in sub 2 minute lap times, and they'll be more than content to see that.
But BMW is showing very good pace around here, but it's good to have the Audis back. They were always a bit breathless at Monza, but more confident at Silverstone. Now number 101 with Daniel Zampieri at the wheel, looking quick. Indeed, he did a personal best lap last time, 2 minutes 0.071. And Zampieri, former International GT Open champion, raced in the Lamborghini Trofeo last year, but used to be a Castle Ferrari peddler in this series. Heads up now towards the line. There's a Nissan in the way a little bit, which is 22. Is that going to affect him? Let's see. 6th fastest was the Lamborghini over the timing line, and he loses out in the last sector, I think because of the Nissan. So Zampieri stuck behind and still can't get through. So the lap is not an improvement. And is that the number 12 Bootson car? It's Carimoge off the road.
So it's in a relatively safe part of the racetrack, but a very quick part, so he's got to be very cautious in how he gets back onto the circuit. As we see the field flooding down Wellington straight into Brooklands. The Mercedes 84, that's the Max Baumann car. That again is another candidate. Jermaine Jafar behind the wheel right now, currently 5th. But the Lamborghini looking to go all the way around the outside. The 19 Lamborghini pushing Jafar all the way down the exit across start-finish line.
Yeah, Jasmine Jafar, 5th fastest then. That's the reason for the yellow flag, as Carimoge is about to get going. Alain Adam, the race director, is keeping the session live, hoping that as soon as there's a gap in the traffic, the car's going to get going once again. As you look now at the treble 6 Lamborghini, which is Richard Abra at the wheel. Richard, a much underrated quick British driver. So that's a car looking for an improvement. Richard Abra's already put it 11th fastest, which is a great effort. Coming down now to Brooklands, Carimoge gets going, but not very rapidly. Come on, pick up pace, quick. He's offline, thankfully, so people can go round him. Coming out of club, but very, very slow to get going.
Yes, I mean, he sat there quite a long time. Maybe, again, just the engine got very warm, and then Nissan pulls into the pit lane. So that's, assume the 22 Nissan. But there is the BMW running now more at a normal speed. So I suspect he was just resetting himself as much as getting the car reset, having sat there waiting for a clear moment to get back into the track.
So Philippe Eng, still the fastest from Vervish, from Van Gisbergen. And then, as you see, 26 now, which has got Mike Parisi at the wheel of it. That's only 7th fastest. Not sure that's going to be a candidate for pole, but it should be an improver, because Mike Parisi, the man from Pau, has done a personal best sector 1, but lost out in sector 2. Although, as we saw yesterday towards the end, it's not necessarily a given that you have one bad sector and not an improved lap time. He can salvage something out of this in the last sector. We had yesterday what we thought was an amazing lap from Michael Meadows, but he missed out Beckett's. He'd gone straight on, so eventually the lap time was binned. I
spoke to one of the WRT team members this morning, and when they were watching that and timing and scoring live, Lawrence Van Voor turned around and said, "Impossible! Impossible! Nobody can be a second quicker than me in the first sector." And he was absolutely right, because what we didn't realise at the time we saw a replay was that Michael Meadows had missed. Well, he'd just taken the shortcut because he'd gone in a little bit hot and couldn't get the car turning in without losing it, so he straight-lined it, and it all got self-corrected. But nevertheless, Laurent Van Thor felt a threat and a challenge to his position as the man within the WRT Audi team.
And so the lap time was taken away, but now Michael Meadows is 12th in this session, because although he was briefly 2nd fastest, things have certainly shuffled, and the checkered flag is imminent. Drivers getting themselves ready for Q3. The smart teams now bringing the cars in early to give themselves a little bit more preparation time, rather than flogging around to the very end. And as the clock hits 0, out goes the checkered flag now.
We're just catching Michael Meadows, currently down in 12th place, number 2 Audi, with a Bentley pounding down. And which Bentley could that be? We haven't seen an awful lot of the Bentleys in this second sector of qualifying. And we don't even have a Bentley right now in the top 20. Oh, we do. That's Wolfgang Reib down in 20th place in the number 8 Bentley.
You've got 117. Tom Onslow Cole's Pro-Am car is actually outpacing the M Sport Works cars.
Now, that may just simply be that the Works cars have not yet done their flying laps.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the Onslow Cole car going through there.
But this is one of the fascinations of qualifying, because it is always providing such a jumbled grid. The qualifying elements, Q1, Q2, Q3, are all short and sharp. You've seen what happens if you don't get a clear lap and if there are red flags. So it really is becoming ever more important to get one decent lap in.
And just to talk about the Bentley, the number 7 car, Guy Smith behind the wheel at the minute, it's down in 30th place. That's not a reflection of Guy Smith or the Bentley performance. It's just that for whatever reasons, that car has not yet fully realised its potential as the Ferrari, the 488, slips through number 50. the of Corsica. Alessandro Pierguidi will be most likely well, he may be the starter driver, or he'll be the final hour driver, going back to the 59 car, the second of the two McLarens. And I'm not sure if it's my young namesake. No, it's not. It's currently 16th. So the 59 car is being driven by Alex Struenmoor. I beg your pardon, Struenmoor at the minute. 333, the 458 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari that Siedler and Siegfried race. So Aston Martin back in the pits, the left rear being attended to. Certainly the discs are being cleaned up now. Only you do that normally if you've got a glaze, where if you had a new pad or a new disc, that you can get a glaze on the surface of the disc and effectively lose any efficiency of your braking.
And so the flag out then at the end of Q2, and it is Philippe Eng with that time in the end. He did a 1 minute 59.483, so he did 3 pole position laps in that aspect of qualifying alone. And yet another driver marks himself out as a GT star. If you've watched the Porsche Championships in the past, you'll know how good he is, but now he's proving it to a bigger audience. 87 has been looking pretty good so far in the AM class. Maurice Ricci, Jean-Luc Bobelic and Gilles Vanellay's ACA ASP Mercedes, and the celebrations going on in the garage as you saw a moment ago. So Silverstone in fine condition for this weekend's Blancpain GT Series visit. It's been the traditional home of the endurance round of the series ever since the Blancpain Endurance Series, as it was then called, began. And this is how we look at the end of Q2, taking the session in isolation. So Philippe Eng it is who is top, ahead of Frederick Verviche. Shane van Gisbergen is third. And then Will Stevens, we didn't mention, but it was Will that was fourth, the ex-Manor Formula One racer, ahead of 84, which is a time from Jasmine Jaffar. Daniel Zampieri is next. And then you've got the 57 Mercedes, another one to look for. Andreas Simonsen, 8 fastest. Carry on scrolling down. Michael Meadows currently 13th. And you can see just how busy a grid it is this weekend, as the times largely are now being relied upon from Q2, but some teams being able to go slightly faster in Q1, and therefore the further down the order you get, slightly the more jumbled it becomes. These are the overall times that you're looking at now. 48th was the Alexander Matschel Ferrari. That's going to be quick in the next part of qualifying. Daniel Kalvitz to get on board. And we are about 45 seconds away from qualifying getting underway. 52 cars this morning. And the reason for that being that we lost the number 77 Porsche yesterday, the Nicola Armindo car, up against the pit wall. Very surprised that Jeroen Bleekemolen's car should be the slowest at the moment, number 16. Because that was yesterday quickest in pre-qualifying with Mirko Bortolotti at the wheel. Right, treble 3 Ferrari. That's going to be quick because now they've cycled through the drivers to put Norbert Siedler into the car. Norbert, a few years back, was a man with a reputation for being a Porsche specialist, but goes just as well in a Ferrari. He was another one that came out of the Carrera Cup and the Porsche Super Cup, but a single-seater gun before that. And we are 2 seconds, 1 second away from a green flag, which we get now. So the session is live, Q3, and this is where it all counts. This is where the cars are at their lightest. If they've kept a new set of tyres, they need to put them on now. They need to get the gun driver behind the wheel, like the blue touch paper, and stand back.
Interesting that the 99 Row Racing BMW put Alexander Sims in for the third sector, where Maxime Martin, who I would have thought would have been, you call it the gun driver, the go-to guy. Philippe Eng has been really impressive every time he's been in this car all season. Alexander Sims knows Silverstone like the back of his hand, and undoubtedly capable of matching. But interesting they put in Maxime Martin first.
Possibly a banker lap, and possibly because Alexander Sims knows the car a bit better. He's done more miles in it, so maybe they're counting on his experience in Q3. But it is an interesting development. It's an interesting way of doing it, I grant you. Yeah.
I mean, it may be that they feel that Alexander Sims, in this instant, by being at his home circuit, a circuit that he's raced on in all forms of motor racing, single-seaters, GT cars, whatever. Let's look at the number 8, Bentley. The time that Philippe Eng did, and he did 3 consecutive laps below 2 minutes. Philippe Eng has impressed me all season in this M6, and he's driven alongside Alexander Sim since the start of the year in Misano. It's just that Maxime Martin has come in as the 3rd driver into the one we might consider to be the quicker of the 2 road racing BMWs at the present time.
So Q3 underway. There is an investigation for a couple of cars for overtaking under a red flag during Q3, apparently. Well, we haven't had a red flag in Q3 yet, so that must have been in Q1 or Q2 at the very start where we had the Ferrari off. But the message line at the moment is looking into the future, perhaps. Teams getting ready to go, hoping to find some clear track space. Now, what can Bentley do? Let's have a look, because number 8 Bentley, with this time around Andy Soucek at the wheel, is about to blast out of Woodcote, over the timing line, down towards Copse Corner. Let's ride with him.
And he's got a clear racetrack ahead of him, which he's been delighted with. Goes into Copse, takes a very nice entry into the, doesn't override the curb on the inside, runs a little bit wide coming out of Copse, then up the hill, gets the car into position. You can see the pinch point as you come through Maggott into Beckett. Very, very committed, very quick into the first 2 parts of Beckett's. Again, makes the apex on the inside in the final part. Lets the car run very wide, but has got the momentum onto Hanger Straight through Chapel Curve. Then, well, depending on the way the wind will, there's virtually no wind blowing right now compared to what we had yesterday. And then the climb up again. There is a slight incline as you come into Stowe, which enables you to brake a little bit later. Missed at apex, but runs very wide on the exit of Stowe. Then down the hill into the braking zone, right behind a Lamborghini into Vale, and that will upset Andy Soucek because he will want to get past the Lamborghini, and he's going to put the Bentley up the inside and say, I'm coming through, which he has done. But that will have shaved maybe a couple of tenths potentially off what might be a very good lap, a lap that will put the Bentley very much back at the races. Into Abbey again, lovely line in. Bentley rides the bumps extremely well, then hard on the brakes into Farm. Again, another Lamborghini up ahead. There seem to be a lot of these almost Porsche Viper Green. It isn't Porsche Viper Green, the colour, but it is Lamborghini's version of that. Loses a little bit of time on the exit out of the loop. Maybe just not quite the traction the Lamborghini has, but fastest first and second sectors overall. Down Wellington Straight. Late braking for the Bentley. Trying not to find himself overrunning the Lamborghini directly ahead of him. It's not going to be a major issue, but it's always a focus for a driver. He's always looking that little bit further down and concerned as the Lamborghini now accelerates out. And he's coming into the pits after 2 fast. Well, they've now got personal best because it's the 24 car right now that's got the fastest first sector. That's the Team Parker. It's the Callum McLeod car.
So you've got Johnny Adam the fastest in the Aston, Marco Mappelli for Barwell second, Joe Osborne third, but Franck Pereira, who had a second place in the qualifying race at Brands Hatch a week ago in the Sprint Cup with Marlon Stockinger, he's about to go potentially to the top. Stephen Kane is now the fastest, 1:59.514, so Bentley Aston the top 2. But where does the Audi feed in? Quickest, Franck Pereira does a 58 to 1:58.737.
Wow, what a time. First 1:58 lap time from a GT3 car in the history of GT3 racing here at Silverstone. And as I mentioned yesterday, that's way quicker than we saw from the GTE category that raced here 2 weekends ago in the WEC 6-hour event. So in terms of the GT performances, and then we go back to the Jaguar. Now we saw that yesterday, the front was vibrating like mad.
It's second fastest though. It's done a 1:59.243. Albert Costa has got the Jaguar half a second away from the top time.
16 Lamborghini right now is going quickly indeed. Marco Bertolotti. He was quick in the first of the 2 free practice sessions yesterday. So will it be a Lamborghini? Front row of the grid alongside the Audi of Franck Pereira. 1:58.7. Outstanding time by the French driver in the Audi number 74.
And that's a Pro-Am car, remember, as well, Franck Pereira's Audi. We know he's the real pro, but don't anticipate it's going to be a race winner because of the disparity in the pace between the pros and the Am. So you've got Audi, Jaguar, Bentley, Audi, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, the top 6. Daniel Kalvitz is 7th in 66 Ferrari.
Stephen Kane's popped up into 3rd place in the Bentley, so he was languishing down outside the top 10.
Yeah, done him. He was quickest, but then he got mugged by the rest. And Mirko Bortolotti goes fastest, 1:58.469. So from being 52nd, that car is now fastest. It was 52nd on the combined classification. It's now fastest, 1:58.469. But we're not done yet, because there are still others that could possibly pull something out of the bag. Where's Vantor, for example?
Well, we haven't got any purples up for the number 1 Audi. We're looking to see where it is. Hasn't even done a flying lap. It's just left the pits now with 8 minutes and, well, just over 8 minutes remaining. So Lawrence Van Thor will be coming out on a new set of rubber, and he will be looking for that unique, sometimes unavailable, clear lap. But to challenge Mirko Bortolotti's time of 1:58.4, Laurent Van Thor, it's over to you.
If anybody can do it, he is the man. But is anybody else going to find a purple sector out there? We've still got quite a few without a time. Andy Soucek hasn't done a lap. We rode with him for most of what looked pretty good, but then he bailed. So he's got to do something before the end. So Stephen Kane pits in number 7. 84, we've got Maxi Buch at the wheel of it. Now that's another car that's yet to really deliver in the session. And is this the lap on which it's going to happen? Let's see. Personal best, but there's traffic up the road as well. McLaren's aren't really shining as yet either. Michael Lyons has done a good job to go 12. You're on board now with Maxi Buch. He comes out of Woodcote Corner, over the timing line, goes 3rd, 1:59.228. Good job done.
Could have been quicker, but the McLaren just ahead took away a little bit of the momentum coming out of Luffield. So that's the luck of the draw. I mean, it's almost impossible with 53 cars on even the 5.4 kilometre circuit like Silverstone, 5.8 kilometre, not 5.4, to find that unique clear lap. We're waiting to see what will happen for Laurens Van Thor once he begins his flying lap, and currently he has, to see where he is. Well, he hasn't obviously done a time. He's on that out lap.
Just gone past us now, so he's gone over the timing line. He's onto a flying lap as into the pits comes Bortolotti. Is he going to go back out again? 6 3/4 minutes on the clock.
Well, the only reason he would go out is if he's got another set of new tyres, because otherwise he's not going to match the kind of time he's just given us. A 1:58.4 is not going to be a time I would imagine he could ever get close to once his tyres have been through that first heat cycle, and then they've lost the best of the performance.
Alexander Sims has gone 3rd in the BMW, or 1:58.905. So it's Bortolotti, Pereira, Sims, Buch, Costa. And then to round out the top 6 at the moment is 85 Clement Schmidt in the Mercedes. 7th is Johnny Kane. 8th is the
Albuquerque
Audi number 3. 9th is Marucelli. 10th is Johnny Adam. And I can just about do a top 10 without another change within it, but there's some more brewing up, I'll tell you.
So where is number 1? That's the one car that we need to see a lap time from. This is on board with Maximilian Buch. Personal best, first sector, nothing remarkable in the second one, and I suspect this is going to be a visit to the pit lane.
Andy Soucek's done a start-up lap and gone 31st, but there's more to come. Maxi Buch then down in the middle sector and stays out, comes into Woodcote. Got the McLaren behind him now. And also about to come across the timing line just behind this Mercedes, number 7, Stephen Kane at the wheel, but his sectors weren't too flash.
And that was a very deceptive lap from Maximilian Buch. It was only a couple of tenths away as we go back to what we're waiting to see from Laurens Van Thor, and looks of concern from Pierre Dudonné in the WRT team. But is this going to be the lap that suddenly sees, we're not seeing any purples anywhere on our timing and scoring for that number one Audi.
Now what about Giancarlo Fisichella in 53? Because he's pushing, as you'd anticipate. He's yet to do a proper flying lap, but it's going to come this time. Look, lights are flashing to say I'm in a big hurry here. Clock's running on him. A good first sector. He's around about the 35.6 mark. Well, he's lost 4 tenths there, but it's not the end of the world. But the traffic up the road could go against him.
Well, obviously his focus is, I mean, to be quickest overall in qualifying would be a real dream, but it's to be the quickest of the Pro-Am cars.
Yeah.
So this lap isn't going to certainly see him challenging the Bortolotti lap time 1:58.4, and again the traffic ahead. He's having to just sort of try and modulate as best he can his track position. Oh, and a little flick and a twitch coming through Abbey.
He's on the limit, isn't he? He's pressing on. heading towards the end of the middle sector. More traffic, but it's the same for others, of course, as they're trying to get a good lap time out of this. So keep an eye to Fisichella. Also keep an eye to the Audis. Robin Frins is about to do a quick lap in number 2. And as he crosses the timing line, there's an improvement there from him to go up to 22nd. We've still not got a lap out of Laurens Vanthoor. Andy Soucek goes over the timing line in Bentley number 8 and goes up to 23rd, but that's not that exciting. Fisichella gets past the IMSA Porsche, diving up on the inside of Brooklands. He's got number 7 Bentley just up the road as well.
And as the 7 Bentley going into the pits, you know, it's not going to stay out, so he's got to concern himself now, because the Bentley will not be looking to concede ground to the Ferrari. BMW just ahead.
So Fisichella goes through. And we've only got now 3 more minutes of this session to go. Now there's number 1, Laurens Vanthoor, who's got to pull something out of the bag. Personal best laps. Oh, sorry, personal best sectors, but it's his first proper flying lap, so of course they're personal bests. It's how they stack up against everybody else that you need to look for. So a 35.9 in the first sector is 3/10 down, and a 52 is that 6/10. You know, it's not looking that great, this.
No, it's not, and I got the look of deep concentration from Pierre Dieudonné in the WRT Audi pits, looking and watching the monitor. So where is he going to put him? 1:59.7.
It's 11th. It's not bad, actually.
Well, from whose perspective would you say it's not bad?
From the fact that he has not done great sectors and puts himself near-ish to the front of the grid and has outpaced all but one of the team cars.
Yes, it's the Philippe Albuquerque is in 8th position, best of the Audis. Here's the Michael Meadows, Stuart Leonard, Audi number 2.
Yeah, Robin
Frins behind us. So this has got potential. Again, personal best, first and second sector. But will this end up being the quickest Audi overall? He's got to beat the 8th place number 3 Audi, if that's going to be the case. So Vriens comes across start-finish line and 13th.
Michael Meadows looks on, thinking, OK, not too bad. Michael was a class winner here last year in the Aston Martin in Pro-Am with Stuart Leonard. But they've moved as a package now to WRT. So Bortolotti and then the ISR Audi, 2nd of Pereira. Sims 3rd, Book 4th, Costa 5th, 6th is Schmidt, 7th is Kane, 8th is Albuquerque, 9th is Marucelli, 10th is Adam, 11th is Laurens Vanthoor, 12th is Mapelli, 13th is Frins, 14th is Nick Katzberg, and 15th is Adam Christodoulou.
I would really, if I was WRT Audi, I would be wondering, scratching my head, why is the ISR Audi, Frank Pereira, massively quicker than us, 2nd quickest overall, starting in the front row of the grid, and our best car is going to start presently in the 4th row of the grid and has just come into the pit lane.
Yes, discuss. Is it much lighter on fuel? Is it that Pereira has thrown everything at that? Is it that WRT are thinking more about the race than qualifying? I'm sure they've got some excuses up their sleeve.
Well, Pereira showed his form and pace at Brands Hatch last weekend by putting the car on pole for the sprint race, the first of the 2 races at Brands Hatch, and now back provisionally onto the front row of the grid again for this 3-hour endurance race. Now remember, he's not going to be backed up by the quality of driver that they've got in the WRT. He's got Henri Acide and Philippe Guillaume. So it's a virtuoso performance from Frank Pereira. Great to see it there. Whether he will actually be the race start driver for that car or whether he'll be in for the final stint, again, that'll be a team decision.
But we know he's also very good around here, evinced by pole in a Porsche a couple of seasons back. So Silverstone specialist from Pereira. The flag is out. And most people electing to head down the pit lane, not all, but the majority are taking the flag in the pits, with further improvements not coming. Laurens Vanthoor didn't go any quicker on his next lap, like he lost 10 seconds on his next lap. 333 Ferrari has flattered to deceive a little bit in the qualifying period this morning. Only 37th in Q3 is Norbert Siedler. So again, it's not quite like sticking your hand in a bag full of numbered balls and pulling them out to determine a grid, but it is very jumbled again. And then not only is it jumbled in terms of times, but John's just alluded to this, there's no guarantee, especially among the Pro-Am cars, that the guy that set the time is going to start the race. So you might well have, like in the context of 74 Audi on the outside of the front row of the grid, a slower driver to go first, and therefore there's even more overtaking and more shuffling and more drama at the start.
I think the one thing that is pretty evident is the 16 Grasser Racing Lamborghini Huracan, Rolf Eichkinen, Blake Mullen, and then finally Marco Bortolotti, is actually what you might call the pine seat.
Yeah.
Because there's a very strong driver lineup all the way through, whereas the car sitting alongside of the 74 Audi is not quite so strong overall in the driver lineup.
Yeah, but Rolf Eichen is a kind of AM plus. He's not a proper pro, even though he's got good results. He's going to be the slower of the three. And remember, in his stint at Monza, he didn't shine.
And I think there was sort of a little bit of chatter in the paddock that some of the drivers that are considered to be either bronze but more likely to be silver are actually getting very close to being a gold.
Yeah.
And were they playing the game of doing personal best, and then backing off, not to put themselves into that gold situation?
I think you're right. Well, let's catch up on Lamborghini news. Charlie's in the pits. Let's hear.
Okay, so congratulations, well done. P1.
Thank you very much. I would say the lap of my life. Really managed to have a clear spot, and I knew I have to go for it because maybe the second lap is traffic, so I have to push. And I had a really good lap. I'm really happy about it. Gottfried did a great job, the whole team. Throughout the weekend, even last week in Brands Hatch, we were really on the limit.
Yeah.
And this week, this time we managed to get the result we deserved. So I'm really happy with this pole position, looking forward to the race.
Okay, from a team boss point of view, are you proud? Are you pleased? Are you happy? You know, tell us.
To be honest, for me was disqualifying a little win because we made a strategy completely mad to save all the new tires for the race, for example, and we know we had only one lap. And this is the guy who is able to do this one lap, and this was amazing. And I have so much to say thank you to him. And I'm so proud, to have really one of the best drivers in this car. And I think in the Lambo there's no one who can beat this guy.
Good. No, this isn't emotional at all, is it? Not emotional at all.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
Good, guys. Congratulations. Good luck for later on today. And honestly, what a wicked lap. Well done.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.
So Gottfried Grasser, full of admiration for Marco Bortolotti, former single-seater racer, and then switched to the Eurocup Renault Series, but has found a very happy home in GT racing. He came out of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, a regular support race for the Endurance Cup, and it was through his efforts in that when Lamborghini Squadra Corsa was formed, he was picked up as one of the factory drivers and then thrown into a full GT program, and you can understand why. Very impressive indeed.
Yeah, hearing Gottfried Grasser, I mean, being as effusive about his driver, reminds me about all the great British teams that I would have driven for, and they would have done little more than a grunt. Oh yeah, well, he's paid to do that.
Whereas Gottfried Grasser is far more effusive. Marco Bortolotti then outpaces Franck Pereira, but only by a fifth of a second. Alexander Sims third, ahead of Maximilian Buch. Then Albert Costa working his magic in the Jaguar. Hooray for that. That was on the podium here last year in class. Then you have the Clement Schmidt Mercedes, Stephen Kane doing the time in Bentley number 7, Felipe Albuquerque in the best of the WRT Audis from Matteo Marocelli, then Johnny Adam, then Lawrence Vanthoor, and it was Rob Bell getting the 58 McLaren up to 12th overall, ahead of 13th for Barwell 78, Marco Mappelli Lamborghini, then Will Stevens ahead of Robin Frins, Nick Katzberg 16th, ahead of Adam Christodoulou, Jeroen Mul doing the time for 18th, Mauro Engel doing it for 19th, and then Patrick Niederhauser, Daniel Zampieri and Fabio Babini 20th. Mike Parisi's Audi only 21st, a bit disappointing that, and as you look further down the order, you can see the different colours for the different classes, with the Pro-Am battle between 25 and 11 to be 25th, going the way of Marco Bononomi over Andrea Rizzoli. Andy Soucek only 27th, and Giancarlo Fisichella only 28th. Thought he would have delivered more than that, but Frank Stippler was a long way back for 29. So almost every team's got a hard luck story to take out of qualifying. Christopher Zirkling, Dan Camish and Jules Gounod only 37th. Much was expected of that. Peter Cox and Pierre Caffer only 38th. So again, find a car and you can construct a story for why it should be higher up the order. What it does mean is that it's a very jumbled grid, and it's going to give us a fascinating race to look forward to getting underway at 3 o'clock local time, the second Endurance Cup race of this year's Blancpain GT Series. Let's just have a quick look back at some of the highlights of the qualifying session. Q1 ended up with a red flag because off the road after contact with Peter Mann, contact from Lucas Ordonez's Nissan, and that car off the road brought out the red flag, and qualifying was not restarted. We went into Q2 and that was red flagged early on as well when Neil Stevenart went off the road. So take 2 For Q2, cars blasted out. It was a busy road, and of course busier than we'd had for Q1, given that the double driver entries had joined in. They can't take part in Q1. So it was a case of trying to find some clear road, find a gap in the traffic, and Philipp Eng was the man that mastered the second element of qualifying in the new M6 BMW. The car unreliable at Monza, but after Maxime Martin had been quickest in Q1, it was Eng who did 3 back-to-back pole position laps to go quickest in Q2. But in Q3, Franck Pereira initially set the pace, and then Mirko Bortolotti got on board the Grassa Racing Team Lamborghini, and he hustled it on to be the fastest. Giancarlo Fisichella was another man looking for a good time, but the traffic went against the ex-Grand Prix racer, and Fisichella ended up way down the order. And so, pole position in the end to Lamborghini. Mirko Bortolotti doing the time, and the race to get underway at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Join us for that from David Addison, John Watson and CBH in the pits. Bye for now.